Hi, this is Kim Pinkney and welcome to my channel. Alrighty, so I'm going to be working on the last page and a half of Nocturnal Emission's second chapter. Then it'll be up and everybody can see it in all its glory. Here's a quick sneak preview of what the chapter looks like, and it can be viewed for free on Webtoons. And there you guys can take a peek, let me know what you think, and send me your well wishes or whatnot, and I can go ahead and move on to chapter 3. I can't wait. I'm going to get back into some monsters, and we'll get out of this and we'll have some fun with other things. Now this is going to be the page that I'm going to be working on. And I got one last image here to color and maybe do a little bit of something in the background. But the background's not as important to me as getting this damn thing out. If it picks up or whatever, I'll come back and I'll do up the backgrounds and stuff. But I'm just trying to stay focused on the story. This has been my own little personal nightmare. Just having the time to get through this. It's just been so hard and time consuming, and with me the way I am, I've been learning more and more about the program, and to the point where it slowed me down to almost a crawl. But with all the things that I have learned, like creating textures, because you will run out of textures if you're doing like a complete scene and stuff like that. If you want to give a little bit more realism to your people in the atmosphere and whatnot, you're gonna want to be able to create your own textures and things that kind of appeal to you, because Procreate will run out. You'll get tired of using the same ones over and over again, and there's nothing more frustrating than seeing your texture on somebody else's thing. It's not that hard to create, and I've showed it in a couple of videos. I don't need to create any right now, but definitely it's totally worth doing. Okay, so what I'm going to do right now is get the easy crap out the way, which is pretty much selecting everywhere where this texture is going to be, and just bust it all out. And I'm just going to select. Let's see, I'll do it like this. There we go. And I wish I could just drop the texture in, but you can't. The only other way is to do like a clipping mask or something like that. Let's see, I think I need to fix this. Let's see, grain, edit. I love this grain. Auto repeat. It has this really hard edge that I just started getting on my nerves. The scale's fine. Mirror overlap. We'll do the mirror overlap. Okay, and then go done. Alright, so what I basically did is I tried to take the squares out. So go to done. You see how it's like kind of split, and you can kind of see where the texture has taken effect. So what I'm doing, I still have it selected. I have it on its highest layer. You don't see that as much now. Yeah, and all that came from playing with the program, watching some videos here and there. There's still like a little bit of an overlap there, but I can kind of bring the brush down a little bit and then kind of emphasize where the folds are, bring the shadow in. And then the other way of bringing in shadow is by switching to the soft brush, and then you can just kind of add stuff in there if you don't want to add more texture. Now, if you're just joining me, see, I'm going to switch to white to go ahead and bring in some highlights, kind of emphasize some of the folds. And the light is coming from above. This is a story for my Webtoon entry on for the Webtoons short story contest. First prize is $15,000. So I wanted to make sure that I had at least a $15,000 type product, or at least a $3,000 for one of the other prizes that you can get. You've got two entries, two different types of entries, and that is mind bending, which is what I'm going for. It's kind of horror, kind of like try to trip, freak them out and stuff. And then the other one was heartwarming, and that's more like romance or something that kind of makes you feel good inside type of thing. So you got the entries to disturb them and the ones to make them feel all warm and fuzzy. And I like the ending to this because that makes me feel warm and fuzzy, or at least it did until until I knew what I was going to do. But I like how it ends. It's nice. I think it's nice. I like giving these guys texture on their jackets simply because it makes me feel like they're abrasive kind of guys. I'm trying to remember. It was ornate, the texture I used. Another thing that I've learned, I need to make sure that when I do use textures that I put it somewhere where it's really quick and easily accessible. I did not do that for myself, so this shiny texture that I have for his jacket is further down from where I have for his shirt, and then he's got like a white t-shirt on. Okay. Yeah, the jackets and the shirts were pretty easy to do. Let me bring, let's see, we'll see, we'll have part of his, and these are brushes that I ended up creating, and they're really super easy to create. You can either create your own. You've always got that option, and let's see, in like the past couple videos, oops, I don't need this one anymore. Let me delete that, and we'll bring this up, and I want to bring it above that layer. Okay, so I just want to go ahead and whip out this jacket. Let's see, and I have him slightly hunched over. Looks like he's kind of contemplating his sins and debating whether or not he's going to tell his friend everything that's going on right now in his life. This part of the story, I have him, Derek, the main character, he's here to get a girl. Any girl, because his girlfriend or woman of the night has left, and he just cannot. Oops, let me do this again. Do this. He can't handle the nightmares, and he has these nightmares. Well, I don't want to give everything away, but I have all this time, so why stop now, right? he has these nightmares. He's had them ever since he was a kid. I've kind of figured that he's had it ever since then. He doesn't remember them. And, you know, people kind of dismiss their nightmares until they become like a reoccurring theme. Oops. Shit. Back up, back up. I keep going to the wrong place to make an addition. When you need to make an addition to your selection, you don't want to go up. You want to go down here where it says add. And I keep forgetting to do that. Rookie mistake. Okay, so I got that part in. I'm going to go ahead and do this. It just keeps it clean for the moment. There we go. Add some white for the highlights, or the lights that are above him. Add a little bit more darkness. Just a little bit of a contrast. And then let's get to the other one. And I think I'll move this one up to where this one is. Here we go. And that's the ones for him. Whoops. Do another selection. Let's see, I'm gonna do that so I have like kind of a difference in pattern. And then just gotta do this sort of thing. Yeah, it's annoying to have to come back and clean it. Let's see. That's why I make the selection. There we go. And then I'll just erase everything on the outside. My straight lines. Okay. Yeah, I've been working on this for a couple weeks, I think. Okay, alright, so let's get those jackets busted out. Oh yeah. He's got a white shirt and this Argyle patterned sweater, I guess. I'll put that there. Okay, so, oops. Get to that. Yeah, some of the patterns that I found online. The really nice ones I found online, but I did create some for skin. I love these little ornate patterns here. Yeah, I went pattern nuts on this. So if I ever have to do a superhero, I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to have, from the get-go, I'm going to create some textures for metals and, you know, to emulate some of that stuff. Anything shiny. Let's see. Now this is him tucking in his badge that he just showed his friend. This is going to be his hand. Let's see. And I was going to use one of the, I think it was touch-ups. And it was my lip, no, it was something else. It was a shiny texture. But yeah, I love these textures. I can't wait to do other artwork. Like when I get ready to do a friend of mine as the Queen of Hearts. I'm going to create some textures. Oh, it's wood grain. Here it is, shiny stroke. I wanted that to be like I wanted him to have a different interior for his jacket liner. Okay, he's got white. Oops. Back it up. I want to select his cuff. And we're going to use the ostrich again. Yeah, so I just went online, found some really interesting textures, swatches basically from different sites. I found this one called, it's like an ostrich skin. Another one that I have is this shiny texture. I can't remember where I got that one from. And just did the search for textures, and I found some really interesting stuff. Let's see. So just want to get the crazy textures out the way. Like I saw back when there was this big controversy with Paul Manafort, some sort of the guy that was assisting Trump, one of his best people, because he only chooses the best people. He was busted for was it campaign fraud or some crap like that, and he spent a shit ton of money on ostrich jackets and stuff like that. So I'm like, when I saw this ostrich texture, I'm like, oh, boy's gotta have that. Oh, he's gotta have that. I'm sure he's a nice, healthy Republican. Okay, and we'll throw the argyle texture in here too. Let's see. We'll put the white in. Let's see. We'll put the white color in real quick. Just go ahead and fill that with white. Maybe a little hint of gray. Whoops. I'll change that to what is that? I have no idea. Okay, so I'm not gonna sweat that. I'll put a texture on it when I get ready to do the face. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do the other texture, which is the argyle. Yeah, since I'll be doing a lot more women and their funky styles, we'll go ahead and I'll show again in another video how to create your own texture. Some of the folks that I follow on YouTube have created videos like that as well. So I'm like, cool. Where were you when I needed you, bastages? But that's okay. That's all right. We live and we learn. Just do this. I'm going to cut it off like right down here anyway. Let's see, so I'll just do a quick selection. Oops, thought I was using the rectangle tool. Just kind of bring it in like that. Just erase. Yeah, the next time I do a comic book, I'm not going to put all this detail into it. I just want to do it on my first one. Okay, so we need to do it here. I wanted my first one to be aesthetically pleasing. You know, I wanted to be pleasing to the eye. And when I went back through and I read the first chapter after taking a break, I'm like, oh my god, this really is bad. It looks kind of cute. It's like, I see what you did there, Kim. I see what you did there, but I had to kind of give myself the side eye. I'm like, there's just so many things I want to do differently in another one. Let's see, we'll just throw a little bit of the argyle here. Let's see, we'll throw some right here. One of the things I like about Procreate is that it respects that you've already got something down sometimes. So like if I make a selection like right, oops, make a selection here, we'll have his shoulder and some of the jacket. We add a little bit more. Okay, ostrich. I can't just fill it. It would be nice if I could. But you know what I'm thinking about doing is creating a there is a way to kind of make it look like it's been filled with something. You would create like a layer. I don't have layers to spare though. If I had layers to spare, I could create like one layer that's just full of the ostrich texture, and then I can create a mask and then just paste that, you know, create a mask for every thing that's going to be using that texture. So like right here, I would have a mask layer and it would just like reveal the ostrich texture, but I don't have layers to spare. I've only got like 16 layers to do what I want to do because I wanted to have this at a decent level. But when you do drop a color in, it kind of respects that there was something already there. It won't just like take over everything. Let's see. Put a little bit of tone here, and I'll probably just have to do another cleanup one more time. Yeah. Let's see, it's just so much faster to use the rectangle tool. Just get the edge here. There we go. Alright. And then white. I'll just go to favorites. Another cool thing is that if you've already been using a certain brush and you go to a different type, like I go to textures brush and it's still on ostrich. It kind of keeps the same one that you used last time. So if I switch from ostrich back to my favorites, it'll still have the soft brush which I had before. So that kind of makes it easier without having to move ostrich into my favorites. Another thing I can do is create another brush library, and it'll just be the brushes of what I'm currently using, which would probably save me some time. And I'll do that for my chapter 3. That way I'm not searching for like, what brush did I use last time? Yeah, that's me. That's how I hear myself thinking. I sound just like that. Okay, so I'm just gonna make a selection here, and I'll make one more here. I'm just gonna fill that. You see how I have a little bit of overspray in this neck of the woods here. I have to go over it. Even though I dropped the color down, it kind of respects that there was something already there. It's like, she didn't mean to do that. It's like, yes, she did. She's a lie. It's a damn lie. Okay, so let's see. We're going to use a lighter tone for the white in his outfit here. And then I'll do some more tones when I get ready to do his face and hair. Okay, so I got that going on. Let me grab a little bit of this tone, this base tone. And I'm just going to bring that down in here. And I'll fix that too. Okay. So we got those in there. The jackets are done on this one. Yeah, the jackets are done on this one as well. I just need to be outlined, so I'm gonna do a quick outline. I'm trying to be consistent with doing lines and stuff. I'm trying to remember my line weights. It's the drawings where, let me put this on another layer just to make sure it's actually black. Keep it about there, we'll keep it here. There we go. And just kind of keep it clean. See, I'm not really worried so much about the lines so much. It's just, it just makes it a little easier to see what's going on. And I'm going to need to do that when it comes to the monsters. Because this is black and white, it's going to be harder to view the monsters. They'll still look horrifying, but I'll have to be a lot clearer at what's going on so people don't get confused. Okay. I shouldn't really worry about an outline on these guys simply because there's nothing in the background to get them confused or anything like that. Yesterday I was going to hop on just to show you guys some progress and stuff like that, but I started listening to what was that called? Ink Master. I was listening to that all day. I was like, oh yeah, Ink Master, and it reminded me of not tattooing fundamentals, but drawing fundamentals. Like, I want to make sure things are vibrant, or, it just kind of reinforces. Plus, I like the drama and the music. It's mostly the music too. I love the music. I was searching for the music of Ink Master, and I couldn't find it. The only thing I could find was like the intro. So I'm assuming that they're probably using like a website like what I'm using. Let's see, just to make sure that this kind of stands out from the other side. There we go. All right. All right, and then I'll color in his 8-ball here. Oh, that's not going to do it. Let's see, let's do a circle. And the lips. Create one more layer. I'll fill it with black, and then I can move it. Okay. And let's see, is that going to select it? Selects that. Okay. We'll duplicate this. Color it white. And then make it small. And for giggles, we'll go ahead and toss on the... Oh, I was worried that it wouldn't fit, that it would encroach too much on the other panel. Let's see. Add text. There we go. La 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 la. Oops. We'll change this to, let's see if Futura will do it. Yeah, Futura will do it. Alright. And then I'll just merge these guys together. And that's about as high as it's going to go on them. And then I'll end up cutting it. But then again, I could leave it. Nah, we'll cut it. Let's see. La 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 la. So they're in a bar. It's a pool bar, a billiards bar, pub, I guess you can say. Let's see. We'll do this. Oops. And I wanted it to, and this is another thing that kind of set me behind a little bit. I'll show you what I mean in a sec. They're sitting in a pub that is in this kind of shape. Or did I delete it? No, I moved it, I think. So I want the club to kind of, or the bar to be kind of like this, where they're sitting. I should have kept this all in color. I really should have. But each one of the balls, I wanted them to look like they were in a rack. And there would be like 15 here. And then there would be like a smaller table in the shape of this rack here. But that was where they're pretty much sitting when they're sitting at the bar. Okay, so I'm gonna put some highlights on, trying to get to the, there we go. I'm just gonna put a few highlights on this ball here, or this chair. Oops. And I'll use the soft brush. Yeah, the soft brush is one of my favorite brushes. I'm just kind of soften this. And then make it really white. Like it's reflecting some of the lights. Alright. And then he's in a striped ball, or sitting on a striped ball. Let's see, we'll use the ellipse tool again. La 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 la. We'll merge this one down. Okay. Ellipse. So we'll just create the circle. Deselect it. If you try to move it and select it, it'll leave like a little ghost edge. Let's see, so we'll have that just to get the little roundness there, and then I'll erase a little bit of this. We'll use this rectangle tool. Let's see, and we'll use, I wonder, let's see if I can use that rectangle tool here as well. Yeah, I'll just color to this point. And then maybe even, we'll just kind of have it concave here. Oops. We'll bring this down just a smidge. Just freehand it a little bit here. Okay. All right, so I think I got the easy stuff out the way. Let me go back to the gallery real quick. Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do some textures. Now, since these guys are pretty small, I'm not gonna worry so much about the texture of their face. We're not zoomed in completely. Let's see. Da, 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 da. So in order to get this realistic look on their face, I use a real face for the lighting. But the thing about it is that if I rely too heavily on the photograph, photos are taken at different times, different lights, just completely random. So I know that the light, oops, I got the wrong one. Here we go. I know that the light is coming from above. Let's see, it's easy to do the hair, but let me do his face first. Okay, so he's lighter skinned than him. And I've got their tones pretty much mapped out for the grays that I want to use. Bryce being on the second layer here. But I always deviate anyway. Okay, so I'm going to use my soft brushes to go ahead and get these tones in. And when they're closer, I usually use some other brushes. So like once I finally get the tones down that I want, I'm going to go ahead and use a couple texture brushes, but I don't think they would work very well here. Let me see. One of the texture brushes that I created, I put them under touch-ups. I called one this porous. It gives that pore look on the face, little, the aberrations that skin has. And then another one I like using is either rough skin or old skin. But if you're not careful, it'll look really super scaly. So bring the opacity of it down. Let me see if it works here, because it's really a small face. And it just gives you a nice little texture to add. And of course you can create your own brushes by, if you can find face textures or skin textures. Your skin on your face is different from the skin that's on your arm. So like if you were thinking about using the same brushes that I'm using, they're already in Procreate. Rough skin is pretty good, looks like on the face. Old skin is really good like when you're doing hands. Let's see. And then when I'm doing the monster skins, I just go for broke. I try every single texture that I've got in the kitty here in Procreate. All of these were in Procreate. Here's the that rough skin, or which one was that one? That was the old skin that you see right here. And I've used it here for normal people. Definitely takes on another view when you use zombie skin on top of that. The scabs were created from making a selection and using one of those just various brushes, and you just can get some really interesting textures from these just simple Procreate brushes. And then I just went batshit crazy and brought in other textures and started using them for the suits. There's a shiny kind of metallic texture for this suit. And this one, totally different texture. Yeah, I just had fun with these textures. And even in this particular one here, you can barely see it, but it's like a honeycomb type texture. Even here, I think I just used one of the noise brushes for that texture. But you could clearly just like blow through every single texture in Procreate to the point where you definitely need to make your own. Okay, so let me get back to this face. Once you have it down to a science, coloring the face is not a big deal. The first thing I did is I filled it full of the base color, the base tone, because not everybody's like 100% white, and it just kind of gives you an extra place to go on here. See, we don't want to give him a cleft chin. Get that out of there. Get that out of there. And then I just kind of use the brush opacity here and here and just kind of bring it up or down. Change it here, and that should be a lighter black that pops out, and I'll just alternate that. I'll keep the brush size the same for the moment unless I'm really going in. Also, one of the tips that I learned from watching a YouTube video is that if you want to go faster, don't zoom in. But if you don't zoom in and you want to try to be meticulous with your texture, it'll slow you down. So I like to zoom in. I like to see what's going on. But my goal is to have this chapter, you know, I'm going to review it, and then I'm going to upload it, warts and all. Let's go to white for the highlights. You can barely see them. Let's bring it up some. And we'll be able to see it better once I add more tones. Okay, we'll throw. Now, one of the things I like doing when I do faces is I like to have 3 different tones. I like to have the highlight, which is like the one that's closest to white. I like to have a mid-tone that's in between dark and light, and I like to have the darkest tone. And between those 3 tones, I'll use the different opacities of those tones. Now, another thing that I also do is I like to come in with my brush tool with a different, whoops, I'm going into his collar. Let's see, we'll just put a little bit here, because we do want to show a bit of a shadow. Okay. And when I use these skin textures, I like to use a different texture to kind of soften it up. So I'm going to use my porous texture. You can use like maybe rough skin, noise brush, anything so that it still has texture to it, but it can blend better with itself. And then I bring that down a little bit because I don't want to obliterate what I've already got here. I do want to change it up a bit, but it looks more realistic if you aren't just going with the smooth tone. Like before, I was just going to use nothing but the soft brush. But I like the effect that this scaliness gives to these characters. Just adds a little bit more realism to it. And then I'll just come over it again with some white. Just bring this down some. And this is another thing that kind of kept me busy, is that when do I stop? How real do I need it? How much texture, how much detail do I need? And I wanted a lot of it to have really, you know, when I had time, and I kind of zone out when I really get started with stuff. But now I'm going to try to time myself. So like after this song, I'm moving on to the next phase. Let's see. Oh shoot, I've only got 20 minutes left. Okay. So like right after the song, I'm going to move to the next phase and just like say that's it. So get my darks, get my tones on here. I usually would change the brush here. Another good brush to use on the lips, you've got the fine hair brush. If you need to get those little separations, you know, like lips have, get a nice tone in there. I'm gonna soften it a little bit, and then I'm gonna use white and let that you know, and then I can have those be those little highlights. Soften up the edges here. Bring it up some. Let's see, I'll change this to soft brush. That way I can really get in there. Another way of doing it is just go ahead and use your soft brush first, and then make another layer, and then you can add your textures on top of it, and you can still get some really good effects doing that as well. Sometimes I would go ahead and keep my outlines separate from my initial coloring, and then I'll blend it in, and then just kind of blend in my outlines with the tones that I've put on. So I wouldn't necessarily need an outline. I would have the skin do the outlining and whatnot for me. Oops, let's throw some white in there. Get off that brush. I'll just use a little bit of the soft brush here. And definitely, if you can find a source image of someone to get that realistic look, by all means do it until you get used to how you want to, how you want things to look. Use the shadows of somebody else's face. It doesn't have to be the same face, but you can kind of see how the light is working and things like that on them. I'm just going to soften that. Okay, let's come to the eyes. I'm going to use the soft brush for the eyes. Have it down to its lowest level, and that is a really thin brush. I'm going to bring it up a little bit and just kind of do our blue-eyed guy here. Yeah, so my goal is this weekend to have this chapter up. I'm trying to negotiate a couple days off so that I can power through. Chapter 3 and 4. I've got so much drawing to do, it's insane. Creating the thumbnails was so much faster and easier because you don't putting any detail in, you're just pretty much putting in what the scene is going to look like, but as you're drawing it, you're like, oh, what would be cool here, or that's me actually. It would be cool if I change everything into like a big giant pool table. Yeah, it's the ticket. It wasn't in the initial plan, but it came out in the rendering. If you go to a place, you want to give it a name. Yeah, you can call it a pool, whatever, pool hall. That's easy, but it's kind of boring. Real places have real names. Even like if you're living in an apartment buildings have names. Carlton Arms, just they all have, especially if they're nice. They all have names. Schools, locations, it's just things that I didn't have in mind when I was starting the drawing. Okay, so I think the song is almost over. Let's get that hair out the way, and we'll move on to the next one. Okay, so for the hair, I'm strictly using, well, for now, I'm using Procreate brushes. Okay. And I start off with the soft hair brush. I think there's something here. Get rid of that. Okay. And what's cool is it'll go with wherever you're stroking. So I'm stroking it to the left, stroking it to the right. And I'm just like doing like little taps. And it gives you like these little strokes here. The longer it is, you can have long hair. Or if you want to do short spiky hair, you can do that too. It's also got a brush that's really good for fur. That's the short hair brush is really good for fur. Okay, so once I get the hair up to the level that I want it, or have, oof, it's really high up. Let me bring it down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to add a little bit of white where I think that the light might be hitting it. Okay, I got less than 9 minutes. Okay, and then I'm going to use my smudge tool, but I'm going to change it to the soft hair brush, and then I'm just going to smudge it. I'm all the way at the top here, but if I don't want to obliterate all my lines, I'll bring it down some like that. Yeah, and it just kind of gives it like this soft sheen. And if you're like me, sometimes you'll just forget and leave it up at the top, which is fine. You get this, you know, it's obliterating my lines, but it's giving it tones, and it's kind of filling in some of the gaps. So then I'll switch it back to black, come back over here, we're still on the fine hairbrush, and then I'll throw in some additional strands. Now this guy's hair is not that dark, so I'm not going to go batshit crazy on adding more dark tones. And then you have like the fullness of this hair. And then you can just repeat it again and smudge, and then repeat if you want to get more texture up in there. I tell you, this fine hairbrush will change your religion, I tell you. Once you've mastered the brush. Okay, and I use it for the eyebrows too. Okay, there's that one. Let's go ahead and finish up his hair, and I'm going to do pretty much the same thing. I like my fluffy haired men here. His hair is long in the front and kind of short up on top. Like a reverse mullet. And then do the same thing. Still have the same brushes. And I'll use these same brushes no matter what hair that I'm doing. If I'm doing curly hair, I would still use the same brush. I'll just change my strokes. There's also a stubble brush too. So like if you got a guy that hasn't shaved, you got that too. You can throw that 5 o'clock shadow in. Okay, so I gotta get going. Just gonna do a few more things to his face. But if you're pressed for time, use your soft brushes. And then just use, if you're doing black and white, you know, you choose your black and then bring it down. Let me see if I've got his face right off the bat here. Let's see. I've colored him so many times. There we go. Sweet. Make sure that you're on the right brush. Bring this down so it's not so dark. Here you can control your tones. And what I'm going to end up doing is coming back afterwards and adding texture if I need to. Hit the darkest parts either first, or you can hit the light parts first, where the light is hitting the most. And it's almost like you're creating your midtones, let me see, we'll do the white here. And then just kind of smudge these guys, go into each other. Make sure everybody's layered here. I'm going to merge everybody together. There we go. Yeah, I love doing faces. Soften that. And then I'll just go ahead and add some texture. Come back to my texture brushes and the touch-ups. And just go ahead and go for broke there. We'll do the porous. And then I can give him the realistic skin tones and then just kind of soften that. Kind of obliterated it because I was going too fast. But let's see, this one here was touch-ups. Don't want to duplicate it yet. And rough skin. And then here I'm going to use the porous skin touch-ups. Or I'll do it the other way, where I'll use porous as the brush and then the other one as the smudge. And then between your highlights and you can get some really good results. Let me bring this back up. Alrighty. Okay, so if you guys like what you see, like and subscribe. Be sure to check out my webcomic. It's free, and the more interactions, that's 30% of their judging. So please leave me a like. Tell me if you saw it, if you saw it here first, and then it brought you to Webtoons, because your girl here can use $15,000. Get my teeth fixed. But it's not about winning now. It's all about like finishing. This will be my very first Webtoon, and hopefully not my last. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer. There we go. And that's just the start. Okay, you guys, I gotta get going. Have a great one, and thank you so much for watching. And please be sure to check out my my webcomic and leave me a comment on it. Take care. Bye-bye.